Good evening, darlings. I received the following question from YouTube user LiviCombs, which says, can you talk about your feelings towards world religions? I thought this was a rather fascinating sort of question. You know, there's countless religions. I mean, it's very difficult for me to sort of go through them one by one. But just speaking generally, I think that religion is a very positive thing. You know, it's there to sort of provide comfort and a set of morality. You know, that they're guidelines to live your life by in order to be a better person. At least that's what it should be. And I think that we should all strive to, if we are following a religion, to make sure that we're not sort of putting our beliefs on another person in a way that's going to cause them harm. Because I feel at that point you sort of have lost the whole point. Religion is supposed to be about bettering yourself, living properly, and you know, and in many cases it has to deal with the place of an afterlife and what that means and how to get there. And I see sometimes people who use that difference of religion to say someone else is going to suffer some horrible fate if they don't switch their faiths, or if they don't follow these teachings, then they're going to suffer for all eternity. And I'm not saying that if your religion says if you don't do this, then you're going to be burning in the fiery abyss for all eternity, that's not valid for you. But, you know, I feel like scare tactics in any way, it's just a little bit uncouth, don't you think? I mean, what else is there in this world that we can be certain of? You know, there's sort of the cycle of life and death. For most mortals, that's certainly a concern, and you know, we can count on the changing of seasons, the passage of time. But there's a lot of uncertainty, and so I feel like religion for most people out there, it provides a way to sort of make sense of that uncertainty, to sort of put it together in a way it's a little less frightening. You know, I think for many of us, even us that cannot die, there's sort of that feeling of the universe being such a large place, so much bigger than us, but just such a small part of that, and sort of being comfortable with being so small and possibly insignificant, I think is very disturbing, deeply disturbing to many people. And so having the comfort of knowing that there is something higher than us, something beyond us, that's going to sort of steer us in a way to sort of hold our hand, a safety net there for us. Well, who wouldn't want to believe that, honestly? I think, you know, of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but I think there's something to be said for having that confidence in the fact that if things are to come to an end, or when they come to an end, that that it's not just going to all sort of blink out of existence. I think that's a sort of a thought that keeps many of us up at night. You know, even elves can die. It doesn't happen very often, of course, except sort of in times of war, but you know, there is still that possibility, that there is that inevitability that one day you could cease to be, and you know, it can be very unsettling. And so as a result, I think religion can be very instrumental in sort of helping us to focus on the good things in life. You know, a lot of religion is about what happens after life, but I think a lot of it also has to do with how we can make the most of ourselves while we still are alive, and I think that part is pretty wonderful. Now, again, I really don't think anyone should ever push their own beliefs onto someone else. That's not to say don't share them, don't tell people about them. I rather enjoy learning about other customs and beliefs, whether they just be cultural and or religious. You know, I think we should celebrate our differences, and we should sort of use them to learn about one another. It's sort of an opportunity to broaden our world. because I think a lot of times the misunderstandings are that we just assume the other person has the same viewpoint as us. And I think that can be rather dangerous. Not to say that there aren't sort of universal traits of reality or with living beings and such, but I think sometimes we sort of take for granted some of the smaller things that are different about ourselves. How we react in certain situations. And I'm not trying to say there's not something to human nature or dwarven nature or the like, but um, I think sometimes the hardest things to accept are not the big differences between us, but the small ones. The ones that seem insignificant, the ones that we assume, well, everyone does that, but not everyone does. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that I think we should all celebrate the fact that we have different beliefs, that we should honor what another person believes even if we don't believe it, but keep an open mind about what other people think is real or believe to be true, because for them it is. And I don't think you can sort of argue with someone's beliefs. You can try to sway them, of course, but you can't really argue against what someone's reality is. That's just how it is for them. So I think a lot of things could be solved if we just sort of learned to accept those things which are different between us and to celebrate both what's similar but also what's different. And I think everyone should put themselves in a situation where they can experience um, a religious and cultural event that is not their own. And I think the best way to do that, of course, is to find someone who is part of that culture or religion, and to go with them and make sure you're doing it properly, and of course, always be respectful. Even if you don't believe it and you think it's all poppycock or whatever, you should still be respectful of that. Even if you think plain water is not going to purify my hands, or if I eat this piece of pressed stale bread, there's no way that bread is going to somehow alleviate any wrongdoing I've done. No matter if that's what you believe or not, when you are in that situation, I believe you have a duty to hold your tongue, to follow what you're being taught, to have your ears open and your mouth shut, unless, of course, you are being prompted to say something. And that's not to say if it goes against something that you very firmly believe that you should just be silent, but make sure that you respectfully decline. And I think it's very difficult sometimes for people with strong beliefs, religious or otherwise, to sort of find that compromise. But I think it's very important. And I think if we could do more of that, and of course I've been guilty of not doing that and I've had to learn the hard way, but I think if more of us could do that, the world would be a much better place. So thank you so much, darling, for your question. I hope that I didn't sort of circumnavigate it too much and that I was able to answer it as much as you wanted. If I sort of missed some point that you were searching for, please leave me another comment, explain what it is you were searching for, and I'm happy to answer a little bit more clearly. So thank you all again so much. Cheers and ta-ta.